Third is robust. The fourth one is platform independent. Platform independent. Okay, object-oriented principles and features. Just please make a note of it. These are very important. Simple, secure, robust, platform independent, portable, interpreted. Okay, obviously object-oriented, multi-threaded, distributed, dynamic language. The last one is high performance. Okay, it's not possible to discuss all the features. To the extent which are possible, we'll cover. So these are the 11 features. These 11 features are very important. Simple, secure, robust, platform independent, portable, interpreted, object-oriented, multi-threaded language, distributed language, dynamic language, high-performance language. Okay, so now the first feature is Java is a simple language. Why it is simple is because it follows the same syntactical structure of C and C++. It follows the same syntactical structure of C and C++. See, syntax wise, there is not much difference. So anyone who is familiar with any one of these two languages, either if you are familiar with C or C++, you can easily learn Java. That's why we are calling it as simple language. Why Java is simple is it follows the same syntactical structure of C or C++. Anyone who is familiar with any one of these two languages, he can easily learn Java. Okay, that is the first one. The second one is Java is a secure language. Secure means you have security. Okay, the reasons are, two reasons are there. Why is your Java secure? The first one is there is no pointer concept in Java. The most troubling concept that you have encountered in C means you will obviously say pointers. So now there is no pointers concept in Java. So that's why it is secure. But you may get a question, why if pointers are not there, how it is secure? Okay, if you remember your C language, pointers means what is that you are doing means you are using some address, and whenever I put a star on the address, I'll get the value at this address. Okay, now if pointers are there, I don't know whether this address exists or not. I randomly on trial and error basis, I'll put star 200, star 100. Then what happens? If there is no value, I'll get null. If there is a value, I'll get the actual value. It does not check whether I am authorized to access that or not. That is, if you are using pointers, there is a possibility of illegal access of data. The security of the data is lost. So because if I don't know whether that particular address exists or not, if I directly use a pointer and I get the value from that address, if value is there, I'll get the value. If value is not there, I'll get null. So getting null is not a problem for me. So if I get a value, then it is a big problem for that person whose data it is. So that is why we say, since pointers are not there, your Java is secure. That is the first reason. The second one is Java has a concept called applet programming. Java has a concept called applet programming. So applet programming is a programming which is run on the internet. It is run on the internet. We cannot discuss much about it here. But what is the thing is, it comes with built-in security. Built-in security. Your applet is having built-in security. It does not allow third-party applications to run inside of it. Inside of an applet program, you cannot run other applications. So that is why we'll call it as secure. That's why it is secure. So that is the reason why your Java is secure. Okay. The third feature is robust. Robust means, remember the word, strongly built. Okay. So how Java is strongly built is Java is strongly built in garbage collection. There are two areas in which your Java is strongly built. This is very, very important. Two things are very important concepts in Java. So one is garbage collection. What is this garbage? Garbage means unused memory space. Unused memory space in your program. Okay. How Java is strongly built is the programmer need not worry about removing the unused space. You need not worry about removing the unused space. I declared a variable, I am not using it. I need not bother whether that variable memory will be remaining as wastage, because Java will do automatic garbage collection. Java is strongly built in garbage collection because it does automatic garbage collection. Java will do automatic garbage collection. We need not bother about removing the things which are not used. It will be done automatically by the Java compiler or Java runtime system. We'll call it as JRS. Java runtime system. That is, it consists of all the things, compiler, everything. So now this garbage collection will be done automatically by the Java runtime system. The programmer need not worry. That is why your Java is robust. The second one is exception handling. Exception handling. Okay, this concept is new to you. Garbage collection, you little bit you know in your C language. Dynamic memory allocation is there, but here exception means runtime error. Compile time error, compiler will show you. If there are any runtime errors, what happens? If there are any runtime errors, what happens? So now that is automatically handled by Java. Java is going to do automatic exception handling. Okay, so Java is strongly built, or Java is robust in two things. One is garbage collection, another one is exception handling. Why it is robust in garbage collection means it does automatic garbage collection. Why it is robust in exception handling is because it does automatic exception handling. It is going to do automatically. So that is why your Java is robust language. So the fourth feature is very important. After telling that, I'll end. So fourth one is your Java is platform independent. So this you already know. Okay. So Java is platform independent. So because it was developed with that intention only. Why? Because Java generates something called bytecode. Java generates a bytecode. So this bytecode is platform independent. This bytecode is platform independent. See, first of all, what is platform independent? If you take your C program, I have implemented it on a Windows machine. Okay, I have implemented on a Windows machine. I got the output. I'll get an exe file in C. That is the executable file. So this I have done. Suppose this you are done in your college. You are going to some other location. Suppose your home or somewhere. Here you don't have a Windows machine. I have a Linux machine. I take the exe file here. I'll try to run. This is not possible. It is not possible. Again, I need to implement the whole code here. Then execute it. I cannot run the file as it is because your C language is not platform independent. It is platform dependent. If you take your Java, the same case. Java program, I run it on a Windows machine. I'll get a dot class file here. So this dot class file only, we are calling it as bytecode. So now I take this bytecode, I have instructions to visual level at a single fetch. If your program is having 100 instructions, all the 100 instructions will be converted into visual level at a single fetch. So now when you go to interpreter, it does not do like that. It converts line by line, one line by line. So if there is an error in one line, it will not go to the next line. Until you rectify the error in one line, it will not go to the next line. So interpreter performance is normally lower than your compiler. So that's why most of the modern languages, they go with only compiler. Your C programming is having only compiler. It does not use any interpreter. C++ is a language which uses compiler. So now Java uses both. Java uses both compiler and interpreter. Is that right? How it happens is So this is what the program that we write. So that only we'll call it as source code. The program that we write, we'll call it as source code. So now this source code is taken by your Java compiler and it generates bytecode. So this is the Java compiler. So yesterday some of you asked what is Java compiler. Java compiler is Java C. Java C stands for Java compiler. So now this is my bytecode. This is my bytecode. Bytecode is generated by JVM. So what is this JVM is? JVM stands for Java Virtual Machine. JVM stands for Java Virtual Machine. So now this bytecode, or we'll call it as intermediate code. This bytecode or intermediate code will be taken by the, so this is called intermediate code or bytecode. So now this will be taken by your Java interpreter. Java interpreter. The Java interpreter is going to take the intermediate code and it will generate the mission code. It will generate the mission code. Okay, what is Java interpreter is? Java is called the Java interpreter. We use a command. These things are commands. I'll show you practically when we execute the first program. So now your program, whichever you are writing, so that we'll call it as source code. If I write a C program, I'll call it as C source code. If I write a C++ program, I'll call it as a C++ source code. If I write a Python program, I'll call it as Python source code. The program that we are writing, we'll call it as the source code. So now Java source code is taken by the Java compiler and it will convert into bytecode. So bytecode, nothing but it is called .class file. It is .class file. Here the file will be with .java extension. Every program is saved with .java extension. Java programs are saved with .java. Whatever program I save with .java, that will be converted into .class file. .class file that is done by your Java compiler, and this .class file is nothing but your bytecode. So this bytecode is platform independent. This is the very important one. This bytecode I can take to any mission and run in any mission. I did not modify the code anything. So that .class file I can take to any mission and run it. That is why Java is platform independent. So now this same bytecode, or we'll call it as intermediate code, the same thing is taken. The Java interpreter is going to convert into mission code. See why we are doing this conversion. See this in this source code we write instructions which are similar to Java, similar to high level language, English, similar to English. See, for example, if you go to see, you are writing printf. Printf is, what is it? It is an English word. By seeing that itself, you can understand printf. Print means I'm printing something. So these are high level languages, but your computer understands only mission level language, nothing but zeros and ones. So that's why what you are doing is your source program you are converting into mission program. That is the ultimate aim. If you are converting your program into mission code only, your program can be executed by the computer because the computer understands only the mission code. So that's why what we are doing is this should be converted to this. But in between, we are doing one more conversion. That is why we'll call it as intermediate code. See, we have intermediate or 12th class, 11th and 12th. So that is called an intermediate stage. So before your schooling and in between your professional education, you have something called intermediate. So similar like that only, between your source code and mission code conversion, we do one more conversion called bytecode, or we'll call it as intermediate code. So this bytecode or intermediate code is taken by the Java interpreter and it will convert into mission code. So this is what happens in your Java. So Java is both interpreted and compiled language. Here you are doing compilation, here you are doing interpretation. So that's why it is both compiled and interpreted language. Is that right? Okay, Java is both compiled and interpreted language. So here you are doing the compilation, here you are doing the interpretation. So whenever I take the source code, I compile it, I get the bytecode or intermediate code. This bytecode will be taken by the interpreter and it will generate the mission code. This is the whole process that Java is going to do. So Java is the language, which is a modern language, which uses both compiler and interpreter. Okay. So we'll go to the next feature. The next feature is Java is a portable language. Portable means easily movable. Okay. At the beginning, we had small TVs called portable TVs. They were very small. Okay. So now, when you come to portable things, they are very easy to move because they, if you take portable TV, it's very small. Taking it is very easy than taking a big TV. So that's why portable means easily movable. So now, what does portability deal with Java? So where does we move Java? So what is that is Java program or Java code, we are going to move from one mission to another mission. One mission to another mission. That is called portable. What is that portable thing that you are going to do? What is that you are moving your program is? You are going to move your Java, or you can take your bytecode. You are going to move that bytecode from one mission to another mission. Why we say Java is very easily movable? First reason, because Java is platform independent. Since Java is platform independent, you can move it from one mission to another mission without modifying the code. Okay. Previously, what is that we said? If your language is platform independent, you cannot move it to another mission easily and you cannot run it. You need to modify the code again. But here that is not the case. So that's why we say Java is platform easily movable or Java is portable. Why Java is portable is the first reason is platform independent. The second reason is size of primitive data types does not change in Java. The size of primitive data types does not change in Java when you change the platform. When you change the platform, the size of primitive data types does not change. What are primitive data types? Your integer, character, float, all these things. So these are primitive data types. So you may get doubt why the size of primitive data types will change. So see here, you take your C programming. C programming can be run in a C++ compiler. You can run it in a VC++ compiler. So when you run it in VC++ compiler, the size of data types changes in your C program. Your C program, if your integer is 4, it may change here to 6 something. So the change will take place when you change the platform. In a platform dependent languages like C. So whenever you change the platform, the size of the data types is going to change. So now in Java, even if you change the compiler or if you change the platform, the size of the data types does not change. So that is why we say that Java is easily movable. Java is portable. Why Java is portable is because of platform independent nature. The second one is it is easily movable because the size of primitive data types does not change. So that is the one more feature. So the next one is Java is a object oriented programming language that we have already seen. So why you can say that Java is object oriented programming language? Because it supports object oriented principles. Java supports the 8 basic object oriented principles. So that's why we say that Java is a object oriented programming language. Okay. So now the next feature. The next feature is Java is a multi-threaded language. Java is a multi-threaded language. So now this is a new concept to you. So now first, before going to that, we'll see multi-threaded. First, we'll see what is thread. So now you know program. Program means set of instructions. Set of instructions. Whatever you are writing instructions, that we'll call it as a program. Whatever instructions you are writing, that we call it as a program. So now you have programs. Suppose I have a program p1.java. I have another program called p2.java. 2 programs are there. Currently, I am executing this one. Currently, I am executing this one. I am not executing this one. So now this is called process. Currently executing program is called a process. Now I am executing P2. So now the terms is P2 is a process, but P1 is a program. Why I call P2 as a process is because currently I am executing this one. Whichever program you are executing currently, we'll call it as a process. And whichever program we are not executing, that we'll call it as a program. In other words, process means active. Presently it is active, it is executing. Program means passive. So now when your process is complex, what is that? Whenever your process is complex, it is a very big one. What is that we do is we split into small jobs. What is that? Suppose you take that this P2 program which you are executing currently is a process. It is having 10 for loops. It is bigger one. What is that we do is each and every for loop we divide it into one job. Job 1, job 2, job 10. So now this jobs we'll call it as a thread. What is that? So whenever your process is complex, we divide it into small jobs, and each and every small job we'll call it as a thread. So now I'll write the actual definition of a thread. What is thread? Thread is a lightweight process. It is also process only. Process is a heavyweight, bigger one. Thread is a smaller one. I am dividing it into small jobs, small tasks. So that's why I'll call it as lightweight process. Thread is a lightweight process. It is also a process, but it is lightweight. We are dividing it into small. So that is thread. Is that right? Program set of instructions. Executing program is called a process. Process is complex. We divide it into small jobs. Each and every small job will call it as a thread. So now what is multi-threading is executing 2 or more threads simultaneously. What is that? Executing 2 or more threads simultaneously is called multi-threading. What does it mean? You have thread 1, thread 2 like this. You are going to execute these 2 threads simultaneously. You are going to execute. So by doing this, what is going to happen is the performance is going to increase. Is that right? I execute both the jobs simultaneously so that my performance is going to be improved. So that is multi-threading. So Java supports multi-threading. So thread is a lightweight process. Multi-threading is the mechanism of executing 2 or more threads simultaneously. Java supports multi-threading. Okay. So the next feature is distributed. So Java distributed means it is separated, decentralized. It's not centralized. So now Java supports distributed network. Java supports distributed network. Why? Can you say how? You take your internet. Internet is distributed or centralized? Obviously it is distributed. We are sitting in different global positions, global locations, but we are going to access the Gmail or Google or something. We are not sitting at single point and accessing. We are distributed globally in different locations. So now from the beginning, yesterday itself I told Java is used with internet. It is linked with internet. So Java is used with internet. Internet is a distributed network. So Java supports distributed. So Java is a distributed. Java supports distributed network. Is that right? Distributed applications. So the 10th one is Java is a dynamic language. I'll write here. Java is a dynamic language. Java is a dynamic language. So why you can say that Java is a dynamic language? What is the reason is Java allows you to add methods during runtime. Okay, already I told you yesterday methods are nothing but the functions in your C language. The same functions we call in Java as methods. So what is the concept here is you can add methods to your Java language in runtime. During runtime, you can add methods. That is a big advantage. So that's why we'll call it as dynamic language. See, you can add not only Java methods, you can add native methods. It's very important. You can add native methods in Java. What are these native methods? Is your C and C++ methods. Okay, native means the basic other language methods. You can add you can not only add Java methods to your Java program, but you can add your native methods to Java program dynamically during runtime. So that's why Java is called as a dynamic language. The last feature is Java is high performance language. Java is high performance language. So now you may get a doubt, Java, how you can say that Java is high performance? Already we discussed one feature called interpreted language. Java is both compiled and interpreted. When you are doing both, obviously the performance of the language has to reduce, but there will not be much difference in performance because in compilation only error checking is done. Whenever you are using Java C compiler, then only error checking will be done. In interpretation, there is no error checking. It will directly convert into no error checking in interpretation. Java is your Java interpreter. Java C is your Java compiler. In compilation only error checking will be done. In compilation, compiler is used, which converts your source program into bytecode. In this area only error checking is done. But in interpreter, no error checking is done. Directly the bytecode is converted into mission code, or the intermediate code is converted into mission code. See, why the performance of interpreter was low? Because if there is an error in one line, it will not go to the next line. Already we have rectified the errors in this stage. So there will not be any much performance impact on Java because in interpretation, no error checking is done. So they will ask you to trouble at this point. You are saying Java is high performance. How you can say that Java is high performance if it's doing both compilation and interpretation? They will try to trouble you here. So this is the concept. No error checking is done in interpretation. Error checking will be done only in the compilation part. So that is the thing which you can say. But how Java is high performance is the main reason is we already discussed it a few minutes back because of multi-threading. Because of multi-threading, Java is having high performance. Is that right? Your performance is going to, what is that we are doing in multi-threading? We are executing